Hello, welcome to another video from the Animal University channel. Let's go for the video. Earthworm. An earthworm is a terrestrial invertebrate that belongs to the phylum Annelida. They exhibit a tube within a tube body plan. They are externally segmented with corresponding internal segmentation, and they usually have setae on all segments. They occur worldwide where soil, water, and temperature allow. Earthworms are commonly found in soil, eating a wide variety of organic matter. This organic matter includes plant matter, living protozoa, rotifers, nematodes, bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms. An earthworm's digestive system runs the length of its body. An earthworm breathes through its skin. It has a double transport system made of coelomic fluid that moves within the fluid-filled coelom and a simple, closed circulatory system. It has a central and peripheral nervous system. Its central nervous system consists of two ganglia above the mouth, one on either side, connected to a nerve running along its length to motor neurons and sensory cells in each segment. Large numbers of chemoreceptors concentrate near its mouth. Circumferential and longitudinal muscles edging each segment let the worm move. Similar sets of muscles line the gut, and their actions move digesting food towards the worm's anus. Earthworms are hermaphrodites, each carries male and female reproductive organs. When mating, two individual earthworms will exchange sperm and fertilize each other's eggs. Each individual has both male and female genital pores. As invertebrates, they lack a true skeleton, but they maintain their structure with fluid-filled coelom chambers that function as a hygrostatic skeleton. Citation needed. Earthworm is the common name for the largest members of Oligoceta, which is a class or subclass, depending on the author. In classical systems, they were in the order Opisthophora since the male pores open posterior to the female pores, although the internal male segments are anterior to the female. Theoretical cladistic studies have placed them in the suborder Lumbricina of the order Haplotaxida, but this may soon change. Clarification needed. Folk names for the earthworm include dewworm, rainworm, nightcrawler, and angleworm, from its use as fishing bait. Larger terrestrial earthworms are also called megadryals, translates to big worms, as opposed to the microdryals, small worms, in the semi-aquatic families Tubophysidae, Lumbricidae, and Enchytridae. The megadryals are characterized by a distinct clitellum, more extensive than that of microdryals, and a vascular system with true capillaries. Anatomy. Form and function. Depending on the species, an adult earthworm can be from 10 mm (0.39 in) long and 1 mm (0.039 in) wide to 3 meters (9.8 feet) long and over 25 mm (0.98 in) wide, but the typical Lumbricus terrestris grows to about 360 mm (14 in) long. Probably the longest worm on confirmed records is Amynthas mechangianus that extends up to 3 meters (10 feet) in the mud along the banks of the 4,350 kilometers (2,703 miles) Mekong River in Southeast Asia. From front to back, the basic shape of the earthworm is a cylindrical tube in a tube, divided into a series of segments, called metameres, that compartmentalize the body. Furrows are generally externally visible on the body demarking the segments. Dorsal pores and nephridiopores exude a fluid that moistens and protects the worm's surface, allowing it to breathe. Except for the mouth and anal segments, each segment carries bristle-like hairs called lateral setae used to anchor parts of the body during movement. Species may have 4 pairs of setae on each segment or more than 8, sometimes forming a complete circle of setae per segment. Special ventral setae are used to anchor mating earthworms by their penetration into the bodies of their mates. Generally, within a species, the number of segments found is consistent across specimens, and individuals are born with the number of segments they will have throughout their lives. The first body segment, segment number 1, features both the earthworm's mouth and, overhanging the mouth, a fleshy lobe called the prostomium, which seals the entrance when the worm is at rest, but is also used to feel and chemically sense the worm's surroundings. Some species of earthworm can even use the prehensile prostomium to grab and drag items such as grasses and leaves into their burrow. An adult earthworm develops a belt-shaped glandular swelling, called the clitellum, which covers several segments toward the front part of the animal. This is part of the reproductive system and produces egg capsules. The posterior is most commonly cylindrical like the rest of the body, but depending on the species, it may also be quadrangular, octagonal, trapezoidal, or flattened. The last segment is called the periproct. The earthworm's anus, a short vertical slit, is found on this segment. The exterior of an individual segment is a thin cuticle over the skin, commonly pigmented red to brown, which has specialized cells that secrete mucus over the cuticle to keep the body moist and ease movement through the soil. Under the skin is a layer of nerve tissue, and 2 layers of muscles, a thin outer layer of circular muscle, and a much thicker inner layer of longitudinal muscle. Interior to the muscle layer is a fluid-filled chamber called a coelom that by its pressurization provides structure to the worm's boneless body. The segments are separated from each other by septa, the plural of septum, which are perforated transverse walls, allowing the coelomic fluid to pass between segments. A pair of structures called nephrostomes are located at the back of each septum. A nephric tubule leads from each nephrostome through the septum and into the following segment. This tubule then leads to the main body fluid filtering organ, the nephridium or metanephridium, which removes metabolic waste from the coelomic fluid and expels it through pores called nephrodiopores on the worm's sides. Usually, 2 nephridia, sometimes more, are found in most segments. At the center of a worm is the digestive tract, which runs straight through from mouth to anus without coiling, and is flanked above and below by blood vessels, the dorsal blood vessel and the ventral blood vessel, as well as a subneural blood vessel, and the ventral nerve cord, and is surrounded in each segment by a pair of pallial blood vessels that connect the dorsal to the subneural blood vessels. Many earthworms can eject coelomic fluid through pores in the back in response to stress. The Australian Didymogaster sylvaticus, known as the blue squirter earthworm, can squirt fluid as high as 30 centimeters, 12 in. Ecology. Earthworms are classified into 3 main ecophysiological categories: leaf litter or compost-dwelling worms that are non-burrowing, live at the soil-litter interface and eat decomposing organic matter, epigeic, e.g. Icenia fetida; topsoil or subsoil-dwelling worms that feed on soil, burrow and cast within the soil, creating horizontal burrows in upper 10 to 30 centimeters of soil, endogeic; and worms that construct permanent deep vertical burrows which they use to visit the surface to obtain plant material for food, such as leaves, anisic, meaning reaching up, e.g. Lumbricus terrestris. Earthworm populations depend on both physical and chemical properties of the soil, such as temperature, moisture, pH, salts, aeration, and texture, as well as available food, and the ability of the species to reproduce and disperse. One of the most important environmental factors is pH, but earthworms vary in their preferences. Most favor neutral to slightly acidic soils. Lumbricus terrestris is still present in a pH of 5.4, Dendrobina octedra at a pH of 4.3, and some Megascolecidae are present in extremely acidic humic soils. Soil pH may also influence the numbers of worms that go into diapause. The more acidic the soil, the sooner worms go into diapause, and remain in diapause the longest time at a pH of 6.4. Earthworms are preyed upon by many species of birds, e.g. robins, starlings, thrushes, gulls, crows, snakes, wood turtles, mammals, e.g. bears, boars, foxes, hedgehogs, pigs, moles and invertebrates, e.g. ants, flatworms, ground beetles and other beetles, snails, spiders, and slugs. Earthworms have many internal parasites, including protozoa, platyhelminths, mites, and nematodes. They can be found in the worm's blood, seminal vesicles, coelom, or intestine, or in their cocoons, e.g. the mite Histiostoma murchii is a parasite of earthworm cocoons. Nitrogenous fertilizers tend to create acidic conditions, which are fatal to the worms, and dead specimens are often found on the surface following the application of substances such as DDT, lime sulfur, and lead arsenate. In Australia, changes in farming practices such as the application of superphosphates on pastures and a switch from pastoral farming to arable farming had a devastating effect on populations of the giant Gippsland earthworm, leading to their classification as a protected species. Globally, certain earthworms populations have been devastated by deviation from organic production and the spraying of synthetic fertilizers and biocides, with at least 3 species now listed as extinct but many more endangered. This earthworm activity aerates and mixes the soil, and is conducive to mineralization of nutrients and their uptake by vegetation. Certain species of earthworm come to the surface and graze on the higher concentrations of organic matter present there, mixing it with the mineral soil. Because a high level of organic matter mixing is associated with soil fertility, an abundance of earthworms is generally considered beneficial by farmers and gardeners. As long ago as 1881 Charles Darwin wrote, it may be doubted whether there are many other animals which have played so important a part in the history of the world, as have these lowly organized creatures. I hope you enjoyed this video enough and it was informative. Please like the video and subscribe the channel. Introduce us to your friends. Good luck to you all.